Welcome to a special edition of Grove 901. I'm Police Officer Mike Vandervoort, and as you can tell, I'm not in uniform today. I'm joined with Lieutenant Brian Murphy, who has come to Minnesota to speak about an incident he was involved in 2012. This is Brian Murphy's first time to Minnesota. Appreciate you coming, Brian.
Thank you for having me, Mike.
You're an amazing guy, man. Your presentation was well received today. For those of you that don't know you, give me a snapshot of who you are and what incident you were involved in.
Okay, Lieutenant with the Oak Creek Police Department, suburb of Milwaukee County. On August 5th, 2012, we had an active shooting incident at the Sikh Temple of Wisconsin. It was a white supremacist, came to the temple. He killed 6 people inside, wounded another 3. He and I engaged in a gunfight. I was shot 15 times, and then the responding officers helped and shot him, and he subsequently took his own life.
After the incident, what was the hardest part for you as a police officer?
Not being a police officer anymore. I think that was probably my biggest trial from a mental standpoint. Was I've been doing the job for so long, and I can envision my retirement. I was only 5 years away, and all of it was removed in the matter of seconds, and coming to terms with it was difficult.
How important is it to prepare for an incident like this, and how important is it to keep your mental health after post-critical incident?
I think from a training aspect, I think the major point is every training you do needs to be in the mindset of, if I had to fight for my life tomorrow, how hard am I training today? Own all your training, and if your department doesn't give you the training, go on your own, because it's still about you. From a mental health aspect, I think it's important to talk to people. What I've found is most people who are involved in life and death events like this feel they're on an island. Nobody understands what they're going through. Nobody understands what happened. And when that isolation occurs from a mental standpoint, it can lead to a lot of difficult things.
How important is family in the recovery after a critical incident?
Huge. I think that's one of the things that departments as a whole tend to overlook. Without that support system on the home front, it's going to make the officers that much more trepidation about the next incident, even as far as who they talk to. Knowing, and I like to consider it this way, it's weight. If I would have come back to work, and I didn't, but if I would have, I know my wife and children would have been much more worried about me every single day. And having that weight takes me out of my proper mindset, and it adds to my anxiety level. So I think one of the things that need to be done is a synergistic approach to not only the officer, but his whole domestic unit, her domestic unit. So not only is it just the officer, but we forget about parents, we forget about children, spouses we usually think about, but we don't know what to do with them. And I think having a good approach that involves everybody, that makes them feel that they're part of this as well, is probably the best way to handle an event.
How important is this for you to talk about the event? Is it part of your healing? Have you moved on? How important is it for you to talk about your event and your journey through this?
I think it's huge. In the beginning, I would be exhausted by the time I did even an hour presentation, because it took a lot out of you, and it's gotten so much easier. I think just being out and discussing it, and one of the things I'm sure you notice is I ask people a lot of questions. What would you do? How would you think? And part of it is just from a confirmation standpoint that I did make the best decision, during the incident. And I think by getting out, especially in front of other law enforcement officers, and admitting that, hey, there's an aspect of this. It's not just about pointing guns and things like that. It's that the spiritual, emotional, and psychological that go along with the physical aspect that is going to make your return that much quicker and that much better. I've seen people come back to work too soon, and unfortunately, it's come back to bite them.
Last question. We have a department that's kind of flipped in the last few years, and we have a lot of young officers, and we have some more senior officers like myself, 20 plus. What would you say to the officers that have been there less than 5 years? And then what would you say to the officers that have been there maybe 20 plus?
Train hard, train always. When you're brand new, you need to make your own habits. And that not only includes, how you do a traffic stop, it's how you de-escalate mentally. How do you decompress? How do you prepare yourself for the next 20 years of doing this job? Conversely, the people who have, like yourself, it's the same. How do you decompress your career? And the other aspect I think is huge is, what's your plan? What's your plan for when you retire? What's the next step? We all love this job, but there comes a time when you're done. And when that time comes, you need to move on, but not the day after you retire. Right. You need to plan for it. And I think all of that, the older officers can help the younger ones and vice versa. There's a lot to be done, and there's a lot of work on everybody's part.
Brian, I appreciate you coming on behalf of the Metro CISM team, Cottage Grove Police Department, Bloomington Police Department. Thank you for coming to Minnesota.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Hope you come back, man.
Always.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks again to Brian Murphy, Bloomington Police Department, the Metro CISM team, for allowing us to have Brian Murphy in Minnesota. And until next time, be safe.
This is the community I grew up in, and it's got amazing people.
People are themselves, and they're having a great time.
I really like telling stories and sharing them with the community.
And it changed my life, and it made such an enormous impact.
I really like the people I work with, and I like doing what I'm doing. I find it creative, and most importantly, I find it fun.
I like coming to work at SWCTC for the new technology we get to use and the variety of things we do daily.
Will you please rise and join me in a pledge to the flag?
Sometimes I get to be part of the action.
We get to work with 5 very unique cities every single day and get to see some things that I think other people sometimes don't get a chance to see.
You guys both have all 10 fingers still too, right?
All 10.
That's
so
even
far,
better.
so good. I know.
Right.
This organization is positioned to give back to the community in many ways. So it's really an honor to have this responsibility, and we take it very seriously.